like to invite all the team members to open up their cameras because we are at the end of our event where we traditionally, can you say that after a couple of times, traditionally, we want to answer all your questions. So please, can you all enable your cameras? But please stay unmuted until, Janos, until I say your name, because otherwise it's going to be a little bit um, chaotic. Um, so let's start with the questions that we received in the Zoom call. Oh, we have an anonymous attendee. Oh, I always like that because it gets my fantasy going. So the anonymous attendee is confessing something. He's confessing, or she, or he. Um, it is confessing that she or he hasn't read the entire 300 plus page book of Swarm. But I've heard of single owner chunks mentioned twice so far today. Actually, it has been mentioned a lot more. So can somebody give a short and good description of what single owner chunks are? Go raise your hands here. Rinke wants to enable his camera. I can imagine this because it's a really, oh, this is funny. Okay, so we're going to the Swarm HQ, our centralized point of attention. And so please, Rinke, can you and your panel answer this question? What is a single owner chunk?
Okay, so single owner chunks are basically a scheme to distribute part of the address space to to personal use, which means that you own, if you own a private key, then you're entitled to write to a particular uh, part of the address space, and what you write into that address is signed by your private key. So validation of the address is done by basically doing a validation on the signature, and 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 and, and the address that you can write to is 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 a is a deterministically derived from your and an ID.
Okay, so we have a problem with the audio coming from the Swarm HQ. I don't know if there's somebody there who can fix this. We have, I think, the audio from Rinke's computer, who seems to be very far from the table. So if we can fix this for the next question, that would be cool.
Did you hear what I said?
Yes, I heard it, but I have in-ears that are like really loud, so I don't know if for for the audience this was clear. I can maybe recap it. It's basically a space on Swarm that only you can write in with your key pair.
Yes, and it has
Yes.
yeah, basically if you want to keep you can write to some part of the address space, um, and thereby like create locations where based on convention or some sort of consensus, someone can look up content. So this can serve as the basis for a communication channel. Like basically, you can preset rendezvous points where you find the next message in a chat, or you can write feeds, like for example temporarily sequenced related content, like for example your Twitter updates, your Facebook updates. You can write into a feed where the feeds updates addresses are derived from a basically convention that uses your public key and some sort of sequence ID. And
Okay.
other
So
uses.
the person who was asking this question, well, I don't know, but so the person was anonymous who was asking this question, and then suddenly we see someone popping up in the chat saying, "I didn't want to be anonymous." So I don't know if it's actually true that this person was the anonymous person, but someone is claiming the anonymous persona right now. But I don't see any hashes or anything, so I don't know if we can trust it. Anyway, let's go to the next question. Maybe this is one for Gregor. Gregor, what is this amazing Swarm HQ background music? Is it even coming from Swarm HQ? I don't think so. I mean, I don't know.
That's an internet pirate radio station called Plur.buzz.
So it's also
I
the
mean,
music.
pirate just by attitude because it's playing free music anyway. So, in the sense of just, you know, being less known, being more underground. So, Plur.buzz.
Blur.bus. So everybody go to blur.bus for an free music. Okay, so let's go to other question. Here we go. So, oh, this is, I like this question. So how does, I hope Victor's sound is good. Otherwise, we will go to Janos. How does B beta compare to IPFS? Do you have feature parity now? Janos. Or is Swarm HQ able to answer this question with good sound? So this sounds better. Can you say something, Rink?
Well, can we answer here?
Yeah, it's still very silent. So I would suggest that Janos answer this question. Janos, can you unmute, please?
Yeah, sorry.
So the question is, do we have with Swarm B beta, do we have feature parity with IPFS?
No, we do not have.
We do not have that. So how many people in this group would say we have it and how many people would say we don't have it? Sorry, it's impossible to do a poll like that. So Swarm HQ, I hope your sound is better now because it's like impossible to hear what you're saying. Let's try it again.
If you allow me, maybe I can comment on what I think is similar or different. So feature parity is not the right word because Swarm has a lot of features that IPFS don't, and IPFS probably has some features that Swarm doesn't. But if you really restrict your attention to file storage and persistence, then one feature that came with beta is kind of making up for some of the advantage that IPFS had, namely that at least your own node stored the data, and therefore, as a last resort, if your storing node was registered in the main registry and was online, then your content can always be retrieved. With global pinning, basically we solve the same. So at least if you operate voluntary pinner nodes or you yourself advertise yourself as a recovery node that pins the content, then Swarm now has this recovery mechanism, this protocol that after failing to retrieve a chunk from its canonical location in the network, it falls back to advertise spinners and recover the content, and the content will also be repaired in the proper locality. So in that sense, we achieved similar measures to achieve persistence. But I have to mention that these are really both for IPFS and Swarm. These are not really meant to be much more than stopgap measures or really emergency fallbacks in case of OS fails. And both in the case of Filecoin and Swarm, it's long-term storage incentives that are meant to solve the problem of long-term storage. Uploaders can choose to calibrate how much certainty, and what period length they want their files to be preserved. And that these features of storage incentives will come in the next release of Swarm.
Yeah, and then maybe also as one example of something that Swarm has, but IPFS doesn't currently have. So IPFS is you're not really uploading something to the IPFS network. What you're doing, you're announcing to the DHT from IPFS that people can find certain resource on your location. So there's not really something as uploads and disappear, because you're not uploading to the IPFS network, it doesn't exist. So in Swarm, really you're uploading something to a network. So what you can do in Swarm and not in IPFS is upload something and go offline. That's an example, but I think really these are two different beasts. People think about them in one go because it's both decentralized storage, but they're really solving different things and doing it in different ways. And that's why feature parity on sich is maybe not the right question.
And I should add that maybe in the future, the two projects will develop APIs by which they can complement each other. So actually, we are looking forward to a time when Swarm content will be available through an IPFS namespace, and conversely, where IPFS addresses it will be possible to use Swarm as a backend storage for IPFS content. I think that is not off the table. So these two projects are in some ways complementary to each other.
Okay, that's amazing to hear. It seems like the world is not enough for Swarm. So one question I think maybe the same group of people can answer: what will Swarm 1.0 have that Beta still doesn't have? And Rinke, I think you can maybe address that.
Yeah, of course. So what I mentioned in my presentation, really the big thing of Swarm 1.0 will be the storage incentives. And apart from that, we will iterate on the features which we already released with beta to make them more useful. And
yes, sorry to interrupt you, but I think this is important to address. So are you talking, so right now we are talking about a bus token that's on Curly network, right? It's GBus. So what will be in 1.0 then?
So the 1.0 release will have BCC tokens on the Swarm, on the Ethereum mainnet.
Really?
Yes.
Cool.
Yep.
I believe you. I believe you. It's just like that's really cool. So what does this mean? Does this mean that everything that people do now to help us out or to run nodes, that it's basically worthless until we have 1.0?
I mean, yes and no. Like tokens on the girly Ethereum network are tokens. So it's on a test network, but it's still on the blockchain, which is maintained by people. So definitely, if you're going to run your Swarm nodes and earn girly BCC tokens, I cannot promise anything here, but internally we have been thinking as well about what we can do with that, because definitely we are really valuing people who are already starting up their BCC nodes, the Swarm nodes right now. And with the girly test network, right now we have a way how we can actually validate and quantify that you have been contributing to the network. So.
Okay, thank you, Rinke, for that answer. I want to go quickly to Gregor. Gregor, are you there?
Yes.
So yeah, Gregor, I mistook your background for ones and zeros, which is not true, right? It's something else. Oh, can I quickly point out, Igor Kraft is here. He's the guy who is doing all this amazing artwork and visuals and art. Igor, just wait for a second. I don't, I'm not going to ask you to start talking about all this because you should have your own event, I think. But Gregor, what Rinke just said, is this legal even? Is this because he's basically saying like, we're going to have testnet tokens that are sort of valuable. Like,
I'm not saying that.
I think you just did. But no, anyway, we'll do a replay later. So Gregor, but what
it's like I need to say, like, please, whatever I say, don't consider it as a financial advice, don't consider it as a legal advice, and I cannot deny or confirm it.
That's awesome. I just love it when you say that. It's like you push a button and then the sound clip from Gregor comes out.
Yes. Yeah.
Anyhow, so let's go back to the AMA. Yes, this is a simple one. For Dani, can you please share a link to the description of the Dream protocol? I would love to read it as well. So I think it's a very valid question. So if you can, just share this somewhere in the Swarm Orange Lounge.
A
Maybe.
good description of the Dream protocol will be part of the Book of Swarm. As you know, the Book of Swarm is a living document that we keep extending and maintaining. So the ultimate source for everything Swarm is and will always remain the Book of Swarm. So that's where the description of the Dream protocol will be. There will be soon a draft proposal for it online. I'm not sure that there's already a link which we're ready to share, but there will be really soon. And also going back to the previous question, maybe, just maybe, the Dream protocol will also be part of Swarm 1.0.
Okay, this is amazing. You put 3 brilliant guys together in a room and you get a lot of announcements. That's really cool. Thank you for that. Gregor, back to I'm not going to do this even. So the other question is, this is a somewhat more serious note. Do I build on top of the higher level, for instance, BCC API, or should I build on top of the lower level chunks API? And what is the difference between those? And I would also want to add a little bit of a personal question, and that is, I heard Rinke talk about, I think, a directory endpoint or something like that. So I would like to know more about that. So who wants to answer that question?
Yeah, I
Rinke?
mean, I
Yeah.
can answer it. So as you know, we are with the B-Node, we are releasing APIs on different levels. We have the APIs which give the features and everything, but we know that the
You're
Swarm
muted, Rinke.
I muted? No.
I can hear Rinke. No, it's not a problem. I can
Okay,
hear.
so we know that we as the Swarm team only have limited know-how of what people can make with Swarm. Like Swarm is so new and so big that there are probably a lot of things which we cannot even think about. So that's why we also have the lower level APIs, and a good example of that is the chunks API, where you can directly upload and download chunks from your V-Node. And we really want people to have the possibility basically to even remake our Deers API with some sort of second level JavaScript tooling. And in the end, this is also how we envision the B project. Even though right now we offer higher level APIs, we actually envision the B nodes in the future to do less than we are doing right now. So right now we took a shortcut and having richer APIs just to get this this wheel to start flying and people to start building on top of B. But I personally would like B to be in 1.5/2 years from now to have it only the lower level APIs and do it much less than it does right now, and have a very rich source of developers and people who build the second layer tools that can do what B does right now, but can also do much more.
Okay,
I mean,
thank you.
Yeah, I totally agree with Rinke. Yeah, that's the goal. In fact, the real goal is to have a DSL which can kind of reformulate all these higher level structures with the help of lower level primitives that the B node would run. And it's kind of I think it's a good plan in the future, because reducing the scope of a component, critical component, is always a good goal to have. And that thereby also offering plurality of the high level tooling. But what I also need to say to answer your question, which one you should build on, that although that's true that you can imagine very multiple different high level APIs and high level ways of, for example, represent files, do encryption, represent directories. However, a lot of research and trial and error we've been through and to converge on the current solution. And I think it's far from trivial how to do things, and therefore we offer this know-how and this particular way of representing files and directories, and And if you want to do only that, I would definitely recommend to use the higher level API, because why not? That's why we're offering it. And offer the low level one if you want to experiment with different data structure representation of files, or use a or have a use case where we don't even talk about files. For example, some sort of backend front end to a blog device or something. So this is what the low level API is meant to be for.
Thank you so much, Victor, for that very.
Oh, sorry. So I was going to say that I would go even one step further and say that try to implement your application using the high-level API and use the low-level API, even if you find some deficiency in the higher-level API. And even then, try to build a layer in between your application and the low-level API, and maybe that layer that you build will eventually become part of the standard Swarm APIs. So because eventually Swarm will also store all the libraries that are used for Swarm content, and the nice way to contribute to the growth of Swarm is if you find the deficiency in the higher level APIs, then you just build a library of your own and share it with the rest of the community. I think that's the way forward.
Yes.
Absolutely, and it perfectly also adds to the message of the unity, or like build this together, come together. This is a question. So in the next question, please raise your hand if you want to answer this question. Who is the CEO of Swarm?
Let me answer that question. So,
there's the answer. Yes. So Gregor, please, can you shine your light on who is the CEO of Swarm?
Swarm doesn't have a CEO because CEO is basically a symbol of exactly the of the world that we don't want to build, of the alternative that we want to create. We do have, in this regard, I guess, we do have project managers, managing directors and stuff like that. There's an executive team that deals with strategy, but the goal of Swarm is actually to really democratize this, to extend all the parts into the environment, and to grow, to basically create a Swarm. So in innovation management or business models science, I guess it could be shortly described that we are aiming to be a so-called teal organization.
What?
A so-called teal organization. This is a part of Lalux's classification. Basically, essentially saying, it's like CEO is the symbol of centralization. So how would Swarm walk its talk with a CEO?
Yeah, and this is not just a dream from you, Greg. Like, I can speak from my personal experience that we have actually many leaders in the Swarm project. We have thought leaders, we have leaders, I don't know for what, we have leaders for a lot of different areas. And I think there is room and space if you are a member of the Swarm project, and even if you're not a member of the Swarm project, you can become a leader, and hence we have a lot of leaders, and it's sometimes difficult, but I think it works very nicely. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So is it a little bit like this? What is this called? This mythological beast with multiple heads, and if you cut off one head, it grows two new.
Yes, in a way. Yes, very good. Yeah. I mean, it's like when you mention CEO. So the next question is, what's the change in the shareholder value? And again, it's like, what kind of question is this in the world of Swarm?
Okay. Well, you're absolutely. I mean, no, I totally agree. You're preaching to the choir here. I mean, this is an interesting question by Jean-Emmanuel Baliba. Are we still planning to store the Ethereum blockchain on Swarm? I think this is a fun question that could have many answers, and let's make it not too long, the answer. Let's try to do this in a couple of minutes, maybe.
Absolutely, yes.
No,
Absolutely.
that's too short. A little bit. You get a little bit more, please.
So there was a kickoff kind of pilot of this project, which we've been doing with Zahur, and it was very successful. We worked together with the Trinity team, like the Python client team, with Piper, and basically got as far as having the header chain, basically the header chain served from Swarm by Swarm to Trinity nodes, and so this was a cross-protocol scheme. Now we already have laid out the actual design for how the blockchain and the state would be stored and retrieved and distributed, so it's all done. But we have to concentrate on the fundamentals now. I mean, this would have come in very handy, but at the time when it was taking off, we didn't have the funding to support it. Now probably this will continue with as time allows us to set up new vestiges, but the core team is really concentrating and focusing on delivering the core of the product 1.0. But yes, definitely yes, and it will have very interesting features. So for example, it will directly be usable by light clients. It will support, basically it will provide a direct API serving as a decentralized explorer. So lots of interesting features, and of course help node sync. That's most important, because of syncing lag, or the storage capacity and time it takes for Ethereum nodes to sync up the blockchain is actually prohibitive at the moment, and really causes a trouble in the diversity of node operators.
So let me just clarify this a little bit. The developer of the Light Client and Light Server protocol actually happens to be a Swarm veteran. He no longer is part of this team. He's working full-time on the Light Client, and we're talking about Zsolt Felföldi, who lives in Budapest and is our good friend. So he has a very good understanding of Swarm. And because of that, the future of the Light protocol is very much intertwined with the future of Swarm. And right now, the bottleneck that the Light client faces, and which everybody who tries to use it will see, that currently the load on the Light servers is just too much. And Swarm aims to take a lot of that load off the shoulder of Light servers and serving state data directly to Light clients. So that's.
Thank you. So so let's do two more questions and then we should wrap it up. Victor, I loved when you say like it stems from a time where we didn't really have the funding to do it. That seems like a distant memory now, and which is like totally cool because now we're unstoppable. I just want to repeat this because I think it sounds cool. This is maybe another question. What about a multi-client network? That's something that I've been thinking as well. So we're now our client is in the Golang, how do you say this, language? And so will we have like a multi-client network?
Whenever you, dear audience, got up your asses and start putting together a client, please. So yes, in a way, we encourage people to consult the consolidating documentation of and specs and try to build alternative clients. We originally planned it to come a bit earlier, but it doesn't seem to happen. I think it's very important to have a real consolidated network and as Ethereum showed, it's very important to have a very strict protocol specification, and it helps thinking about potential vulnerabilities and can forego security breaches easily. So I encourage people to do this. I mean, as a kind of side or kind of child project of building such a client is related to light clients, or more specifically, Swarm in the browser. Because what we ultimately want to achieve is for any user with a completely clean slate and completely naive user without any crypto, just to browse to the gateway, download an executable JavaScript light client, and connect to the network directly. This is the dream situation, and of course the promise of bootstrapping your crypto holding from running a Swarm node is still on the cards, and it's something that we're going to deliver by 1.0.
Yes, I think this is something we should definitely touch on next time, like how basically running a node will be a way to get started in crypto. I have to almost wrap it up. There's one more question which I think is relevant, and that is like, I don't know how much a transaction is now on Ethereum mainnet, but it's a lot. So just even like sending money to someone, it's stupid. Let's call it what it is. So what with I've seen all these checkbooks and accounting stuff, etc. But what good is it if we don't have like a blockchain that actually can handle this?
Yeah, the funny thing is that both the postage stamp redistribution method of the storage incentives that we're planning, and as well as the actual settlement or cash out of checks, both are calibrated or can be calibrated in a way that the node can make sure that their transaction cost will only be a particular allowed percentage of the gain that they get from the transaction. So basically, you can maximize your administrative overhead and calibrate your protocols that way. Of course, it has certain consequences. So in the checkbook, it is the case that there's certain risk zone that you have to then put up with, because basically accumulating checks until the cashing of the check is more than, like, I don't know, 20 times your transaction cost. Then of course you in principle allow yourself to be cheated by a bounced check when the checkbook owner that owes you basically dries up their balance, and there's a bank run, and the cash out check will bounce. But this is supposed to be not huge amounts, and there's other types of disincentives to nodes for against behaving this way. Basically, there's the principle of repeated dealings, which we are basically disincentivized from nodes from misbehaving and leaving their checkbook unfounded.
And I should add that the beta release is the first release of the B client where you can actually experiment with this stuff. So this is the first release where you can actually get down to, balancing what happens on chain and what happens off chain. And sure, inside the team, we are going to, find out ways to present it in a user-friendly fashion, that it happens as seamlessly as possible from the user's perspective, that you never lose money.
Okay, thank you so much for all these answers. I want to go to Dixon. Dixon, can you unmute, please? Dixon, how are you holding up? What time is it in Japan?
It's 4:27 in the morning.
It's 4:20.
In the morning. I have to go to work again at 9 o'clock.
I think you're very brave to still be with us. So Dixon, you'll probably agree with me that we should round it up here, no?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Last question.
So this was the last question, basically, yes. So I want to have a special shout out personally to Ralph, because you rocked my world tonight. To the entire team, of course. Thank you so much for for doing this together. I think we totally have come together this evening. And I also want to thank the attendees who witnessed this long but very interesting event. I think I can announce the next event, which will be Swarm Live. And then there will be, again, tons of new features presented by this team. From Antwerp, I want to bid you a very good night or a good morning for you, Dixon and Zahor. Yes, so we'll see each other soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Bye.
Bye-bye.